And he came in and we all introduced ourselves. We had the head of DBED, the head of tech transfer from Hopkins. We had a great team with us. And he basically started to lecture us. And he said, hey, listen, years ago I lived in Maryland. You have Johns Hopkins. You have Fort Meade and NSA and the new U.S. Cyber Command. You have the Port of Baltimore. You can be on a sailboat in the Chesapeake Bay. You've got the greatest hospitals in the country, the greatest federal investment, federal labs. Just go back home and make it happen. And that's what we're doing. That's what today is all about. We have the greatest state in the United States of America. U.S. Chamber of Commerce ranked us #1 for innovation and entrepreneurism, but we know that we can further enhance and create the ecosystem for innovation. We fight for jobs every day and have a competitive business climate, and that's something that our state is going to get even better at in the future. So with that, I want to thank you all for what you do to invest in Maryland, and now I am going to bring up the rock star of cybersecurity, a man who I am very proud to say is a Howard County resident, a man who led SourceFire and led SourceFire through its recent acquisition for $2.7 billion by Cisco.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. That was a heck of an introduction. I feel like I should be standing on a step stool or something. So welcome, and thanks for giving me some of your time and attention today. So the TEDCO gang asked me to come in and speak here since we had a fairly significant outcome at SourceFire recently, and tell me a little bit of the history and the background of SourceFire. So that's what I'd like to talk about. You know, I call it life in startup land. So SourceFire was a real live software startup. SourceFire actually started in my house back in 2001. SourceFire in 2001. Maybe it was a little familiar to some of you because you're doing something similar. When I got SourceFire going, I didn't really have anything. I didn't have money, I didn't have facilities, I didn't have people. I had my house, and I had a little program that I wrote called Snort that turned out was being used globally and had very rapidly turned into basically the de facto standard for intrusion detection systems at the time, and later intrusion prevention systems. And we operated out of my house for the first year we were in business. In fact, the first 10 months the company was in business, I ran the company on $100,000 for 10 months. So that was pretty shoestringy, as you might expect. And we didn't pay salaries for those first 10 months and things like that. The people who were in it, the 3 guys you see in the pictures there, or the 4 guys, were in it for the long haul goal, which was to build something that would have value down the road. So, you know, that's my living room, which was SourceFire headquarters. That's my kitchen, the guy sitting at the table, the cat sitting on top of the stack of boxes there. That was our first shipment to a customer. I actually did the build out for that shipment on the island in my kitchen. This was a little more photographic evidence. That was our first appliance ever there with a little fuzzy pig on top of it, and that was our lab on the right. Walmart end table with a bunch of appliances on it. When I do things, I just tend to, for whatever reason, some group of reasons, end up in the right place at the right time, and I recognize it. And that's really been the story of a lot of this, recognizing when you're in the right place at the right time, with the right technology, the right business plan, and doing things that are meaningful for people. But I always figured, you know, one of the things I was really terrified of when I started the company was that this was only ever going to be, you know, I was going to have one good idea ever, and this was my shot. So I better find somebody who knows what the heck they're doing and get them in here. So I got a guy who'd been an entrepreneur and been a CEO of startup before, and he came in and we worked fabulously well together. And we started raising money, and you know, right away, I'd say 6 to 8 months after we closed our round, we've been operating for a while. He said, we need to think about raising another round. And I said, we got plenty of money in the bank. Why are we doing that? And he said, well, because the best time to raise it is when you don't need it. You can drive much more favorable terms that way. I knew that we could take our great software that everybody was using and put it on appliances and sell it. And I knew that all I had to do was out-implement the features that all my competitors had. If I had better features and I was easier to use and had a few other metrics, I could compete very effectively. I could build at least a $20, $30, $50 million a year business. But that wasn't good enough for us. We wanted to drive the market itself. So we invented entirely new technologies to do that.